Oh yeah,
Success.
beautiful voice.
Yep. So you're in your bathroom there. I should say washroom. You call it
Yeah,
washroom in
just
Canada.
yeah, I don't know what we call it here, but yeah, just outside. I'm in my mother's basement, like every professional musician. Yes.
Right. So thank you for taking your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Ah, yes.
I invited you because I want to
Okay,
talk about this book that
sure.
you are the mysterious
Author,
author of.
and I don't even own a copy of that.
Really?
Yeah,
Gypsy Jazz Guitar Picking Secrets. Master the essential picking techniques of Django Reinhardt and Gypsy Jazz legend
they
by
came up with all that.
you.
It's the
But
publisher who came up with all the little stuff.
who is the publisher, by the way? The
It's a guitar the Guitar
Vivo?
Vivo. Yes, yes, yes. They're based in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So they did
But
the stuff with other authors like Tim Lurch. They're like they
oh,
got quite a
that's
few
the
big
same
players.
publisher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Tim Lurch and a few other players. They got a few good names.
I just got a book from one of his books. I haven't
Oh,
started.
nice.
So would you mind introducing yourself? Because to
Yes.
my viewers.
So my name is Dennis Chang. I'm a guitarist originally from Montreal, Canada, where I am right now because I'm here to visit my family. But I live in Japan now. So I got started in my career with the music of Django Reinhardt, Gypsy Jazz, because I speak French because I'm from Montreal, Quebec, where French is one of the official languages, is the official language rather. And I have some knowledge of German. I was able to befriend a lot of the gypsies of Western Europe. They're called the Sinti. So Django Reinhardt was from this tribe, and they just happen to be from those countries where they speak French and German. So I was able to befriend a lot of these people, some famous, some not so famous, and kind of like immerse myself in their world. And they taught, well, they didn't teach me directly, but because I was with them a lot, I was able to observe, oh, that's how they do this, that's how, and some people were able to say certain things more so than others. So I got started with that, but of course, Gypsy jazz is I guess, my main thing. But of course, I play like standard jazz as well and stuff like that.
And you have your own like publishing company, I guess you would call it the Dennis Chang School of Music.
Yeah, DC Music School. That's I think someone that Roberto Rosenman from
Yeah,
Toronto.
I've met him. Yeah.
So he was the one who told me that I should start something like that,
Oh,
and like
really?
he gave me the idea. Like he encouraged me. I didn't plan on doing anything like that because I don't even know how. I wouldn't even know how to start something. But he says, "Do it, do it." And what happened within 2008 or so, there was the big economic crash.
Right.
For around 2010 or so, for the first time in a long time, and no longer anymore, the Canadian dollar was stronger than the US dollar.
Yeah.
And I went on a massive shopping spree for gear, for like recording gear,
Uh,
computer, everything. I got it for so cheap.
yeah,
And so
you were
that's,
kind of
yeah,
early with this online teaching stuff.
not the early enough, but not the earliest. True Fire, they were way at it before.
Yeah.
They're the biggest ones in the world. So, but yeah, luckily it was good to start that no later than that because I noticed over the years, especially after the pandemic, everyone's trying to do something similar. It's much harder now than it was back then.
And you've had some of the biggest names, not only gypsy jazz players, but uh, oh, his name is Pat Martino, even, right? Was
Yeah, yeah. Pat Martino, Mike Stern, Wolf News. Oh, your fellow
yeah,
countrymen.
yeah, even same city actually
Oh,
these
no
days.
way. Oh, okay, okay. Wow, wow, wow.
Uh,
Oh.
yeah, and so when are you gonna have George Benson on? Are you still doing videos like that? Yeah, you are.
Yes, I am. I don't know if we should talk about George Benson because I can't. I don't know how much I can say because there's some things that are. I don't know. Should I?
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okay, let's say there's some things I can't close, but there were some things that he. Let's just say there was someone. I was in correspondence with his team, and they were complaining about someone who was taking advantage of his name and ripping them off. Let's just leave it at that. And that gave
Yeah, I think I know what you're
that
talking
left
about.
him with a very sour taste for the stuff. I was close.
Oh, okay,
I really wish I could have gotten him.
yeah, that would be
Man,
amazing. But
what a
still, you have
frustration.
you have had some amazing like players on there for sure, and I really enjoy your bloopers as well. They're super.
Thank you.
Uh, so this is a book about obviously gypsy jazz, which you are very knowledgeable about this stuff, and I play this stuff too a little bit, and everybody that I meet, they know who you are. They sometimes even most of the time they even know you. So, uh, but how did you get to meet all these people in Europe? Like, how come you ended up in that in that
Well,
scene?
there were two big things. You were talking about Europe, right? So there were two
Yeah,
big things. There's the Django Festival
right.
that I started going to regularly. So there I met so many people. And again, really, it's because of French and kind of German. I was able to befriend a lot of these people. Um, how I befriended them, I don't know. I guess we just
So
get
how
along.
when is this in
It's happening
timeline?
right now. I'm supposed to be there right now,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
But
yeah. But I mean, when was the first time you went
when
there?
was the first time? Oh my God, it was like over 20 years ago. Over 20 years ago. That's how old I am. And
But why did you go there?
because I was into the Django thing. I heard it because that was the place to be. That's like the Mecca. If you get into Gypsy Jazz, you're gonna hear about this festival right away, even before
Yeah.
YouTube. Like you do one simple search on the internet, it's gonna lead to that festival, the Django
Mhm.
Reinhardt Festival in Samoa.
I've
Yes.
actually never been. I am embarrassed to say. Some of my students have even gone, but I've never been. So maybe we should. It's like my first question actually was, what is gypsy jazz? Because for us, we take it for granted, right? But not everybody seems to understand, even musicians,
Yeah,
what it
for
is.
sure.
Like, how would you
Mhm.
describe
To
this?
be honest, I think if we get really deep into it, I probably can't even describe it myself because there's
Yeah.
some, complicated layers, a lot of layers. But the most simple definition I can give, of course, that it was it's thanks to Django Reinhardt. We don't have to explain who Django Reinhardt is, right?
Yeah. No.
But the quick explanation is like, okay, Django Reinhardt, he was a gypsy from the west of France. And of course, in those days, as most people know, like there was a lot of persecution towards gypsies, and Django made it pretty big. And all the gypsies from his tribe, they saw that he got big, and they wanted to be like him. So his music, his way of playing, became a folk music, so to speak. So that
Hmm.
after he died, people still continued to play it in their community, in church. Even there's some recordings, bootleg recordings, just like I have something from 1957. It's like a whole bunch of gypsies in a church. They're playing worship songs in Django style. This
Oh
and
no.
tuk
Oh,
chak. So it's like a folk music to them, and they kept that music within their community for many years before it got popular again outside.
hmm.
And from that, like over generations, it became its own thing. I would describe it that way.
Yeah. So it when I started looking at it, there wasn't a lot of information I started looking at this stuff maybe 13 years ago because this guy over here in Sweden became very successful and he was Andreas Öberg, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
so everybody wanted to, for a while, everybody in Stockholm was playing it. Every guitar player was trying to play it. And it was hard to find information about it. And there was this book. And then I stumbled upon some videos of yours. I was in Canada, right? But I didn't even know you were Canadian. But I watched some of that stuff. So this is actually the first really good book, I would say, on this topic. And Andreas Söberg has a book that's pretty decent too, I think. And there's some other books out there, but not a whole lot.
I think that's the second book. So the first book was written. I didn't use that book because I had already been playing gypsy jazz, but it was so what it was like 2002 something. This guy Michael Rohoritz, he wrote a
Yeah,
similar book, but I think it's a good book. It helped a lot of people, and there's a lot of
it's
praise on it.
decent. Yeah,
But it's missing a lot of information. So over the years, I collected so much information that I put everything in there in that one book. I don't think I left any stone uncovered.
yeah. This is not a book that just licks or
Yeah,
scales or stuff.
I
It's
really explained the history.
information about.
Yeah.
So that's my next question. It's called Gypsy Jazz Guitar Picking Secrets. So what is gypsy jazz guitar? What is gypsy. Some people call it gypsy picking, in lack of a better.
Yeah, yeah. But again, that term was invented by Michael Horowitz, the author of the first book. So now people just
Oh,
call it gypsy
really?
picking. Yes, that was it just, well, he used that term and people started copying that term and it's how it
Is
is.
that the same guy who runs Django books?
Yes, this is, yeah.
Okay.
Nice guy, Chang, Michael Horowitz. So he coined that term and people, the internet, it's like hashtags, people started using it.
Yeah.
But actually in those days, that was just the guitar technique. That was the way many people, you can see videos of Mary Osborne, you know her, like
No.
she's using that
Oh, yeah,
technique. So
yeah, yeah.
she's
No.
she's a contemporary of Charlie Christian, and you can hear Charlie Christian using that. You can hear it's like very heavy downstroke. There are a lot of videos you can watch. And Nick Lucas, very famous early jazz player, they all use that technique in those days. Guitar players, if you played with a pick and you were born before the era of amplification, chances are you use that technique.
Yeah, because it's all about volume, right? Like projection.
Volume, projection, and that actually comes from old. It's an ancient technique because from any plectrum technique from the past, you can see this in Japan, the plectrum instruments in China, in the Middle East, oud. And
Hmm.
this is also taught it's talked about in the book. I researched this. I went to the libraries. Classical mandolin also teaches this technique.
Yeah, you trace it back to mandolin method
Yeah,
books, like old, and there's even some
exactly.
examples of.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very interesting. And I also think that a lot of the alternate picking came from Berkeley. That's just my theory. I'm not sure. Because in
I
those
don't
books,
know.
it's always like you start with an upstroke if it's an upbeat,
Ah, I see.
and you start
Who
which
knows?
is
Who knows? Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. But I know for sure, like Barney Kessel, right? He's born in the era. He was kind of like this era of amplification, so he didn't use that technique. So he's one of the first early players to adopt, quote unquote, the modern technique.
right. Yeah, because there's
That's
a problem is we can't see there isn't any footage of Charlie Christian, I don't think.
No, but there's some pictures, and also we can kind of hear the attack that's very heavy-handed.
And there's one footage of Django, right?
Yes, yes, we see that clearly.
But what about other contemporary? Because that's another thing I want to ask you about. Who was Django listening to? He was listening to Eddie Lang. Did I? Is that correct? Or
Yeah, well, as far as guitar players go, I know this is all what other people say, so we don't know what the truth is. Sometimes, things get exaggerated. But yeah, apparently he heard Eddie Lang and apparently he said he wasn't impressed. Who knows? But
oh,
people back in those days, they were very, they were that way. A lot of people.
but there are
So
some recordings of Eddie Lang where he plays like lead stuff, and it kind of
yeah,
sounds like Django
and there are
Reinhardt.
videos too where you can see Eddie Lang using the technique too. There are videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can find them. Not many, but you can see already. Ah, it's the Django Reinhardt technique. He's gypsy picking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's rest strokes and position of the wrist, I guess, and how you're not muting the strings and
Yeah, well, first of all, it's kind of like a classical violin. You play the violin, you want the sympathetic resonance of the other strings, right? And so for the same thing for the guitar, the reason why you don't touch the strings is you want the sympathetic resonance, kind of like a natural reverb. Again, this is before the era of digital reverb, the era of amplifiers. And so it's
yeah.
this kind of a desirable tone. And the rest stroke, in my opinion, it happened almost automatically because of the way you angle your hands. It just happens that way.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. So I started doing that when I play straight ahead jazz too, because I played classical guitar where it's all about the rest strokes, right? I wish somebody explained this earlier in my career, then I would probably have more better technique because it makes so much sense to play with rest strokes. I think, uh, but there aren't really any rules. It might seem like there are. I thought that it was very dogmatic.
Yeah, that's because
But in
yeah,
the book, you say that it's not really that.
exactly, because okay, so that's the one thing that maybe, well, Michael Horowitz, he was the first to, so it's credit, you have to give him credit for being the
Yeah, yeah,
first to do
yeah.
what he did. But in the book, it gave the impression, and myself too, I always thought there were rules, but then I started to watch all these players and even watch very old videos of people, and I see like that's the basic concept is resonance of the strings and kind of this angle of the right hand, like full to get this natural, it just feels natural, when you do a downstroke with this angle. That's the otherwise people can do kind of what they want. And I've seen this. And even Joe Pass was known to use a variation of this technique. And there's a video of him saying that he uses this technique He does starts a new string with a downstroke. Then he proceeds to demonstrate a line. Then he starts a new string with an upstroke, and he says, "Oh, well, sometimes I start like
Okay,
yeah."
that's funny. Uh, so how did you just discover Django Reinhardt from when you were young, or like how did that?
Django. I always knew about Django because people talked about him in like the guitar magazines of those days. So I was already aware. But this is before the days of YouTube. So I didn't know what to check out. But eventually I heard Minor Swing. And there was also some movies like Swing. I don't know if you know that movie. It's not really good. Christian Bale is in it, Swing.
Oh,
It's about
really?
these German kids during the Nazi era. And they're into like swing music. And one of them is like a fan of Django Reinhardt, one of the characters, and he plays in the Django style. So that was already one exposure. There's another movie called Chocolat with Johnny Depp where he played minor swing as well. And so like things like that, I was like, wow, like, what is this thing? So I had this mentor at the time, like a heavy metal guy in Montreal. Anyway, I described this sound to him, like there's this kind of sound that I hear, like chung chung, and it's really cool. So, check out Django Reinhardt, check out these recordings. And he told me specifically to buy these recordings.
Do you remember which recordings those were off of the top of your head?
Yes. First of all, he told me the name of the song was Minor Swing. So that's the I looked for whatever recording that had minor swing with it, 1937. And then he told me to check out the Stokolo Rosenberg from the Rosenberg Trio. So at that time, it was the live at the North Jazz Festival that changed my life. Another one is a French guitar player. His name is Raphael Faiz, French Gypsy. And there's an album that he released, I think it's called like the Gypsy Way or something like that, 1999. The first track is Blues on Mina, and that track is the one
Sorry,
that changed my
who's
life.
this Raphael?
Raphael Faiz, Weiss in German, but because he's French, they changed it Fays.
I don't think
Raphael
I
Faiz.
even know who that is, to
So
be honest.
he's okay. So check that out. So he's one of the. It's funny because his career kind of faded. I don't know why, but he was one of the first child prodigies. There was Birelli Lagren, who everyone knows as a child prodigy in the 80s. Before him, there was Raphael Faiz, also a child prodigy. There are videos of him. If you look up when he's 15 years old, 14 years old, just like Birelli, like crazy, crazy. There was Boulou Ferré. Those were the child prodigies of the style. You know, Boulou Ferré is the son of Matelot Ferré, who is
Yeah, yeah,
accompanist of
yeah.
Django. Yeah. So those were the three brothers. So Raphael Faiz.
Yeah, I
So yeah,
probably the name is just like I can't get a yeah.
yeah. Nowadays he plays like mix of flamenco with a pick, with a nylon string.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So maybe that's why his career kind of faded in the scene, unfortunately.
So, but yeah, just some names. If let's say I'm a jazz guitar player, but I don't really know how to get started with the gypsy jazz,
Sure.
what are some players we need to check out? Stockeler
Well,
Rosenberg.
it really depends as a jazz player. What are you into? Are you more into like the jazzy side of things, or are you more into the 1930s, like Louis Armstrong side of things, or are you more into the kind of like quote unquote the folkloric gypsy jazz? Those are like different things. I can make different recommendations. Kind of like,
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe one of each.
one of each. Well, for the early style, I mean, you have to check out Django Reinhardt. That's just where
Yeah, yeah, that's a no-brainer.
that's
Yeah,
a no-brainer. For kind of like this folkloric gypsy style that's highly virtuosic, like of course Angelo De Bar, Stoklo Rosenberg, Chavelo Schmidt, those are like staples, right? And then if you're more getting into like the jazzier side of things and even straying to like mix of bebop and everything, of course, Birelli Legren is the one who kind of revolutionized the style. Like when he
yeah.
released those records, he showed everyone that you can stay true to the style while incorporating influences from outside.
Hmm.
And he has this record. If you're really more into the bebop side of things, it's called I think it's called Move. It's a red album, and he's really going for mixing the styles like bebop
Yeah,
lines
yeah. He can
with
play anything.
yeah, yeah. So that's one. For the more like, again, for more the jazzier side of things, there's Adrien Monniard from France, Adrien Monniard, as they say in English. Rocky Gresset is another one. There are quite a few people, yeah.
Yeah,
So it just depends what your preferences are.
yeah, yeah. I'm thinking. So, why do you think one? Again, let's say I'm a straight ahead jazz player. Why is it, or is it important even to? Because it's quite a leap. I've noticed to switch. I thought it was something I can do this on the side, kind of, but I quickly realized that no, no, if I'm gonna look at this, I need to really devote myself to this and put the other stuff aside for a while. And but why should we care? Or
I don't think we should care necessarily. You do what you want, but what is very interesting is like without probably like how do you say they don't do it on purpose, but they kept the part of history of the past alive, you know? It's kind of cool. Like the
yeah,
technique, right? Already the technique and also the idea of playing rhythm, chunk, 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 chunk. It's not done so much, and it's not like one of the things like people say you have to practice and get it really, really well. But in this style, it's still like so very important.
yeah, yeah, and it's what I like about it. It's that it's jam
Yeah,
friendly, especially for
yeah,
guitars, because I always felt it was a little bit weird with two jazz guitar players. You know, when you go to jazz college and you're sitting playing all the things you are with two guitars, it's not really. I
it's
mean,
different. Yeah,
but
you're
with
not sure
Gypsy
what you're
jazz,
supposed to
it's
do.
very obvious. Like this is how you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have the same experience sometimes when I play just like straight ahead jazz and I'm wondering two guitars. Oh, how should I comp?
Yeah,
Obviously, you can do chang chang chang, but you can do walking bass. You can do free like floaty like
yeah, yeah.
trumpet. It's very yeah, it's true.
It's. I mean, I enjoy watching, let's say, Lage Lund and Julian Lage, people like that when they play two guitars or. But they are such good musicians. They can. It doesn't matter. They could be playing trumpet or whatever, you know. But sometimes I feel it's just a little bit weird with the walking bass and everything. But gypsy jazz is, uh, yeah, it's guitar jazz.
It is.
So how come? How did you? Why did you decide to make this?
Okay, so the publishing company contacted me
Okay,
and for like ideas for books. And I thought, well, no one had really written something like this detailed about this book, and I have this knowledge because I checked out. I got close to all the big players. You know, I really got to observe them, watch their right hands and everything, and I noticed pretty much all the variations that you can think of. And then I have all this information. I might as well put it, write it down in somewhere.
put
So
it
that's how.
to use. Yeah, breakdown of the mechanics of gypsy jazz guitar picking, exercises. There's some licks and etudes in here. I love that stuff. So that's another thing. You call it vocabulary, but I call it licks. Some people have a
Yeah.
problem with that word. I don't know if you do, but
No, I don't have a problem with that word. I mean, the line between licks and vocabulary, I think it's very blurry, right? No, I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
yeah, because that's another thing. It's very, uh, it's almost, how should I put it? Because in the straight ahead jazz, there's a certain type of player who avoids licks. They don't like that.
Yes.
I don't like this or that player because they play licks. But
I mean,
in country music, you play licks all the time, and it sounds great. I
sure,
don't.
sure. I mean, it's kind of like the whole discussion, like Miles Davis was someone who rebelled against the standard. So when you listen to his playing, you can see it's more like, how do you say, conceptual, like,
Yeah,
but when you listen to Charlie Parker, for example, you can hear, oh, that lick, he does it everywhere. Like,
yeah, he's got his pet phrases. But so when you made that video with Birel Lagren, it seems like he doesn't know theory or
not much. He told me that he learned how to read basic chord charts, though, but I never tested him on that. He says he can read basic chord charts, but I don't think he would understand if it said G13 flat nine. But if he
yeah.
sees like a G7, he would probably know this.
But it's kind of crazy for someone like me to wrap my head around that they can play all this amazing stuff because he can play like John Coltrane stuff or anything.
Yeah, well, so
But
yeah, I mean, to of course, like it's kind of like a language, right? For you, speaking Swedish is so easy, but for some probably someone like me, it's like, oh shit, there's this, there's that. So he grew up, with music, jazz music from the beginning. However, I have to say that also, okay, that he learned very, very naturally, not studied. But hopefully he never watches that. He probably wouldn't care. But like, I can see that he has limits. Like, he can play over culture and stuff in his own way, but like you can tell that he doesn't exactly know what he's doing. Sometimes you can see like, probably should not have done that. So when he gets to more complicated songs, which he usually doesn't have to do in his career, he would probably have a little bit. He would have to study. There's some things you have to study.
Yeah, because in the behind the scenes video you made, he doesn't even seem to know what a pentatonic scale is, or maybe he's kind of pretending. I don't know.
Well, he can play the blues. Yeah, I've no actually I've met one of his close friends, another Gypsy, Vava Adler. One time he was at my house and I just went up and down the pentatonic scale. I was like, "Holy shit, what's that? Show me that." I was like, "What? You mean this?" Da, da, da. But he could play the blues like no one else. For them, it's just like they have the blues vocabulary in their ear, but it's not organized into a scale system.
Interesting. But what about those younger guys, Adrian Monniard and
They know they're self-taught, but they know a little bit more. Yeah, they know a little bit more. Yeah, for sure.
but did they go to like jazz school? I
I
mean,
don't know. He's self-taught.
wow. And but what's his name? The really young guy, Antoine
Antoine Boyer.
Boyer. He's
Yeah,
like
he's very well. He didn't go to jazz school, but
no
he's very
classical.
learned. He learned just kind of like through workshops and through the community. He was able to meet people and he had mentors, so to speak, for jazz, but mostly self-taught. But then he
Really?
started going to school for classical music, so that's all his training is. For jazz. It's from transcribing.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, because he's unbelievable. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I met him when he was like 12 years old or something. He was already incredible at 12.
Yeah. A lot of those players, it seems to be part of the style you're supposed to be a prodigy. Jimmy Rosenberg also was really good when he was super young, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So are you gonna? So you're not gonna go to Samwise? Samwise is happening now? Is that it?
Right this instant, right now as we speak.
And but there was
I was
just
supposed to go, but I have things to do here. So
but you went to Django in June, which is the second biggest event, right?
yeah, one of the bigger ones, yeah, in America.
And whereabouts in America is this?
So it's in a city called Northampton, which is about 2 hours west of Boston.
Okay, but it's more of a workshop kind of
It
thing.
is, but it's also a big hang because so the guy has this contact with the local college. So we take over this particular area of the local college. Everyone stays together. And so people are just always together and jamming. So yeah, it is. It's workshop oriented, but it's also a hang.
Yeah,
That's about the hang as well. Yeah.
but Samoa is a music festival, right? Like it's not even Gypsy jazz, I don't think, is it? Or
So it's very, very complicated. So if you want, I'll try to do as fast as possible. So it used to be taking place in Django's village, Samoa-Sen,
Mhm.
and that's where it was until about maybe 8 years ago. And then the national radio of France took over the festival. And for
Okay,
whatever reasons, we don't know, they have people have theories, but they have the official explanation. But they closed that festival, or they made it into something very, very small rather, and they brought the main festival to the neighboring big city, Fontainebleau.
ah,
So now it's like kind of like yeah, just like a regular jazz festival. But later in recent years, they have been definitely trying to, how do you say, get back to like giving a chance to the quote unquote the gypsy jazz players. But what was always happening in parallel was there's so think of it as a triangle, 6 kilometers, 6 kilometers, 6 kilometers. So this is the main city, Fontainebleau, where
uh-huh.
the half festival now happens. There's this Samoa, where Django was from, where it used to happen. Then there's another one, it's called Samoro. This is the campsite. So for as long as both the festival is, people were going to the campsite and hang out and jamming. So in a sense, a new festival, like kind of like a rebellious or like a answer to
I
the.
see.
And so people gather as early as last week. They've been here and they stay like 3 weeks. So it started a week ago. So
And
some people
people,
never even go to the festival at
you're
all
right.
anymore. They just hang out at the campsite. So that's the experience.
And also, Django Reinhardt's grave is in
It's in the
some.
old festival, Sanwa, yes. So
Mhm.
Django's family's campsite is there too.
Oh, his actual family?
His descendants, David Reinhardt, his yeah.
Yeah, that's because it's there's so many Reinhardts, but not all of them are his descendants, right? But oh, it
Well, basically, Django has two branches. So he had his first wife with whom he had a son that he never really looked after, Lucien Reinhardt. So he has descendants from that branch. From a legal perspective, they are not the beneficiaries of the copyrights, but
oh
they are his descendants. So there's a guy, his name is Simba Baumgartner. I don't know if you've heard of that name. He's one of the He's the great grandson of Django Reinhardt, so to speak, but he's not a legal heir of Django. From the other side, he has his second wife. Then he had his son Babik. Maybe
Babika,
you
yeah.
know, yeah. So Babik's descendants, so David Reinhardt, they are the legal heirs, and they kept the name Reinhardt.
So they're getting the royalties from.
Yes, they get the royalties. I think they are for David Tong. I think there were like 7 or 9 people to still receive the
Okay,
benefits.
but that's got to be a lot of money, right?
Maybe, probably, yeah. I don't know. I never asked. I never asked.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know how that works because after a certain amount of years, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't know either. Because I know like after 75 years in the USA, which is already now, it passed 75 years since Django passed away.
Mhm.
So who knows? Who
But
knows? Who knows?
record sales and stuff, because I know Miles Davis's heirs are super rich, right? Some of them, but not all. The same thing there. Not all of them are getting the.
I don't know if it's true. I heard one story that it was also Les Paul who helped Django's estate make sure like they were taken care of after Django died. Like the
That
league,
very well may be true. Yeah.
yeah, it's was something I heard. So yeah, but one thing that David did tell me is like, yeah, we're like he told me how many people got money from the copyright. It was like 7 or 9 or whatever it was. Not too many.
Yeah. No, that's good. Cool. So yeah, I should go to Samoa. I don't know why
Yeah.
I've never been. It's
You either go to the festival itself. It's worth going at least once to the festival, even though it's no longer what it was. Still worth going once. But then you can spend the rest of the time in the campsites.
yeah, and you can just jam with people. That's
That's what they do. People like some people they're 24 hours. Like there's it's nonstop.
yeah, that's what people telling me. It sounds, but they also
It's
said that
intense.
it's not the same thing as it used to be.
No, it's not, unfortunately, because okay, so the festival became very, very commercial, and the kind of the off festival, the Samoho thing, it got a reputation like, oh, this work is so it's gone to a point where there's over tourism. So like sometimes during the festival, it just gets insane. Like the number of people, they're not all musicians. Some people, because they know from reputation, oh, there's this thing happening, it's free, let's go.
Yeah,
So it can get a bit complicated. It's unfortunately it's true that in my opinion the magic has died a
and
little
there
bit because of
seems to
that.
be all these like gypsy jazz retreats and things popping up everywhere. I get invited all the time to things in Holland, in Germany. There's one in Germany.
Yes,
There's one on the in is it in Seattle in something? There's another festival or
there's a Django festival. That's another big one too. It's a more like it's just a music festival.
uh-huh. So there's a it's a also a music very fitting for festivals and
Yes,
camping and everything.
for sure.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's another really cool aspect of this music is that it's campfire music. It's jazz,
Yeah,
and you can jam for hours till your fingers bleed.
yeah, for sure, for
And
sure.
it's not like jam sessions in straight ahead. Probably gonna get some hate because sounds like I'm trashing straight ahead jazz. But you go to jams, regular jazz jams. I've almost never had a good experience
Really? Why not?
because always there's always this kind of attitude that people have, right? Like either somebody is really good or you're not good, and people are kind of like
Uh,
get off the stage kind of vibe if somebody's not good. But with Gypsy, I guess there's a little bit of that in Gypsy Jazz too. But if you have like the best players in the world and the beginner, they can actually play. They can
Yeah,
play minor swing.
yeah.
But giant steps, you can't play. If somebody really knows how to play giant steps and you don't, it's not gonna work. You know what I mean?
Well, how often does giant steps get called at actually regular jam
Yeah,
sessions? You know,
true. No,
most of
but
the
I
time
just
it's kind of like there will never be another. Kind of like a
yeah,
yeah. I think, but I understand what you mean. Some of those straight ahead. I've been to so many around the world. It can be hit or miss for sure.
yeah,
Sometimes it's unpredictable because sometimes you end up with rhythm sections who think that the way the company is to do polyrhythms and stuff like that. So
yeah.
you
No,
never know. But with Gypsy Jazz, you know what you're gonna expect usually.
in Stockholm, there was this jam that went on that was like every Monday for years. And everybody, those the guys, it was Gustav and those guys, right? You know those guys,
Yep.
and they're really really good. But then there were other people joining, and they were not so good, maybe. But it didn't matter. It was just like this great hang.
Yeah, that's cool. It's true that it's generally speaking fairly welcoming,
Yeah,
which is I guess I don't know. It's a good thing and it's a good thing because of course being welcoming is good, but sometimes it's a bad thing. Like it just doesn't make people realize, hey, maybe if you want to participate and make it sound good, you should practice a bit.
yeah, yeah. Often you hear bands play this style; they're amateurs.
Yeah, it's true.
It's rare that you hear like the professionals, like the
Yeah,
really
it's
good
true.
one.
It's true. That's true too.
It's true for traditional jazz in general, I think. Like usually it's
Yeah,
older
yeah.
people
That
and
that's a very interesting point. So it's kind of like this difficult thing. Is it me? One of it reasons maybe because people are so nice and so welcoming that they realize, I don't have to practice.
yeah.
Whereas kind of like with straight ahead, it's like you better fucking practice. Sorry, I swore, but like you better practice.
But when you know these people, like all these guys that you've made videos for or with, they must be practicing. They're practicing, right? Like you can't have chops like that unless you're practicing, or can you?
Um, oh yeah, for sure. They told me like when they were kids, well nowadays many of them don't practice as much anymore, of course, but they did all the bulk of the practicing when they were kids, and they were practicing like all the super technical stuff for hours and hours for many years. Yeah, they told me that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, it's a very
hours and
technically
hours. Yeah, they would tell
demanding to
me.
play because often very fast tempos and a lot of those waltzes and things are like really, really tricky to play from a guitar player's perspective. Like it's
Oh
like
yeah, it's hours of practice. I remember one time when he was like 15 or 16 years old, the Dorado Schmidt's son Amati. I went to their hometown. I went to Dorado's house. Amati was there already practicing guitar with his cousin. They're just trading licks and just
mhm.
jamming all day, the entire day,
Yeah, and he's
all day, every
he's
day.
pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. So for sure, it's if you really want to get that technique, it's not like just a little bit every day. They were doing it nonstop. And
No, but I
Stockwell
mean
told me
like
like, yeah,
classical players, they have to practice not only when they're young, they have to keep practicing, right? Like at maybe not as much as you do when you're younger, but if you don't practice, if you're a
well,
professional classical guitar player, you're not gonna be able to perform.
well, actually, I have a little thought on that because classical music is a little bit different because in classical music, often you're faced with quote unquote unidiomatic passages that really need a lot of maintenance. They're so
Mhm,
unidiomatic that whereas these players they're improvising, they're playing things that are very idiomatic. So
mhm.
that as long as they've done the practice, at one point once it's mastered, it's like riding a bicycle. They don't have to anymore. So, for example, Stockwell Rosenberg, he almost doesn't practice anymore, yet he can still play incredibly fast. But
Oh
it's true,
yeah,
there are certain songs of his that are where he has like very unidiomatic patterns that he will have to practice. So that's the difference, I think, between classical and what jazz players do, right?
yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah, because I feel like if I don't, you know, play that guitar for a while, it's gonna be like, you know, I have to start over
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
And there are people playing gypsy jazz because that's another thing I noticed. Anywhere, everywhere you go in the world, there's somebody playing this stuff.
Yes. In
You could
Japan,
be
there's a
in the smallest town and there's some gypsy jazz player there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Japan has a fairly big gypsy jazz scene, actually. Yeah,
That's cool.
crazy.
Yeah, cool. Well, just one last question.
Sure.
Is it you that makes the gypsy jazz memes?
No, that's those are guys from the from England. Oh wait, yeah, they're from England. So violinist guy Matt Holborn and another guy. I
Okay.
forgot his name. I forgot his name.
I always assumed that it was you, but
I've made some gypsy jazz memes before though. I have made, but it's not under a banner. It's just under myself. So
cool. So, where should people go if they want to check out your stuff? The Dennis Chang School of what is it called? DC
DC
Music.
Music School. So you can check out DC Music School. You can check out my YouTube channel, my
Yep.
Instagram, and stuff like that. And that's it. Yeah.
I'll put links to all that stuff. You have a
Thank you.
lot. You have a lot of videos there now
On
on.
DC Music School, yeah, quite
Uh-huh.
a lot. Over 200 products or something. Last time I checked, I counted last year, 2 years ago, more than 200.
And is there anything new you're releasing now, or?
Yeah, we recorded a few more players. I recorded this Finnish guy, maybe you know, Olli Soikeli.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
I've met him once at a jam.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, he's
so
doing okay. Cool.
so we did some. He's doing some interesting stuff. You know, he has a hybrid technique like this other guy, Joshua Stefan. Those are the two most famous players who don't have like the quote unquote pure technique,
Hmm.
Joshua Stefan and Olli Soikeli. And that allows you to do some interesting things, you know. So he's got this mix of like bebop with gypsy jazz now that's pretty
Yeah, he
interesting.
plays that stuff too, and
Yeah,
Brazilian stuff and everything.
yeah,
Cool. Well, thanks, Dennis.
yeah. Thank you. My pleasure.